Stop scrolling, because right now, someone is outsmarting you without saying a single word, and you don't even know it. But in the next few minutes, you're going to learn 6 rules that flip the entire game. Rules used by people who walk into any room and instantly become the one everyone responds to. If you're still watching right now, that already tells me something. You're not here for entertainment, you're here to level up your influence. So pause for 1 second, hit that like button, and let me know you're ready for part 2. Because this next rule is going to change how people respond to you within 24 hours. Controlling your state is the single most underestimated source of power in any human interaction, because people respond to what they feel from you before they respond to anything you say. When your internal environment is regulated, calm, and steady, you become the psychological anchor in the room. Humans are wired to seek safety, and a regulated person automatically becomes the safest presence to mirror. This happens through something called limbic synchronization, where the nervous systems of people around you unconsciously match the emotional tone of the most stable individual. When you stay grounded, others start adjusting their tone, pace, and reactions according to yours without ever realizing it. Powerful individuals train themselves to slow their breathing, relax their jaw, loosen their shoulders, and maintain neutral facial expressions even in moments when others expect tension or emotional reaction. This kind of control doesn't suppress emotion, it commands it. You're teaching your body that external stimuli don't get to hijack your behavior. The message it sends is simple: you cannot be rattled. And that message instantly shifts the balance of psychological power in your favor. When someone tries to provoke you, they're actually testing for emotional leaks. If they see anxiety, defensiveness, or agitation, they know where to press next. But when your state stays consistent, their attempts lose traction. They begin second-guessing themselves because humans expect predictable emotional responses. When they don't get one, they lose their map. That confusion makes them reveal more, talk more, and attempt harder to regain control. Meanwhile, you're observing everything with a clear mind. A regulated state also sharpens your perception. You notice micro-behaviors that others would miss because your mind isn't busy trying to manage your own discomfort. You hear what wasn't said, you see shifts in posture, you detect tiny changes in tone. You become the only person in the interaction who is actually thinking. And when you're the only one thinking, you're the only one leading. Owning the frame means you decide what the interaction is, what it means, and what role everyone plays within it. Most people walk into conversations already inside someone else's frame without realizing it. They respond to pressure, they adjust to tone, they follow the emotional direction set by the other person. When you own the frame, the opposite happens. People start responding to your interpretation of reality. Frames work like invisible rules. Whoever defines the situation silently dictates how everyone behaves inside it. A frame can be as simple as acting like you're evaluating someone instead of seeking their approval. It can be the calm assumption that your viewpoint is the standard. It can be the steady confidence that your presence carries weight. Whatever version you choose, the power comes from the fact that people unconsciously look for cues that tell them who is leading. The first person to project certainty about the meaning of the moment becomes the psychological authority. When you step into a conversation already believing you are the one assessing the situation, the dynamic shifts without you saying anything explicit. Frames collide all the time, and the stronger one always dominates. If someone enters with aggression, impatience, or superiority, their goal is to force you into a reactive frame where they control the tempo and meaning of every exchange. But when you remain unmoved, slow tone, relaxed posture, steady eye contact, you broadcast a counterframe that says you're not participating in their emotional script. Their intensity loses power because it has nothing to attach to. They are trying to pull you into their world, and you're calmly refusing to enter. That calm refusal is dominance. Owning the frame also gives you leverage in information gathering. People reveal more to the person they unconsciously see as the evaluator. They justify themselves more. They try harder to be understood. They work to align with the expectations of the perceived authority. You get to steer the conversation simply by maintaining the internal belief that you're the one who sets the tone, and your behavior naturally follows that belief. Strategic silence is one of the most powerful psychological tools because it flips the natural pattern of human communication. Most people talk to fill space, ease tension, or prove something. Silence, when used intentionally, does the opposite. It creates tension, invites confession, and signals control. The moment someone expects you to respond and you choose not to, their brain experiences a sudden vacuum. Humans are deeply uncomfortable with unfilled space, so they rush to fill it with explanations, justifications, clarifications, or additional information they never intended to reveal. Your silence becomes a pressure device that works without force. When you pause after someone makes a statement, especially a statement meant to provoke, persuade, or manipulate, you interrupt their script. They expected you to defend, argue, or react emotionally. Instead, you create a moment where they must interpret your silence. That interpretation almost always causes them to talk more. In that extra talking is their real intention, their insecurity, or the details they were trying to hide. Silence forces truth to surface because people overtalk when they feel uncertain about what the other person is thinking. But strategic silence isn't just about withholding words. It's about controlling your facial expression, body posture, and breathing while the silence does its work. A calm expression paired with silence makes the other person feel judged. A slight head tilt makes them feel evaluated. A slow exhale makes them feel exposed. Their instinct is to relieve that discomfort by revealing more. The silence feels like a spotlight, even though you haven't said a thing. Strategic silence also disrupts power dynamics. When someone tries to dominate you verbally, your silence becomes a boundary. They realize they cannot pull you into their emotional rhythm. You're not playing the conversational game they expected. This creates a psychological mismatch that forces them to recalibrate. They step back, reassess, and often soften their approach because your lack of reaction signals strength, not submission. Silence in these moments becomes louder than any argument you could make. Reading micro-behaviors means paying attention to the signals people leak without realizing it, the tiny physical reactions that reveal what they truly think or feel before their conscious mind can hide it. Words are the last thing the brain produces. The body speaks first. When you learn to observe the subtle shifts, the blink rate increasing, the jaw tightening, the lips pressing together, the shoulders rising, the breathing changing, you gain access to information the other person hasn't even processed. This gives you a huge advantage because you're responding to their truth, not their performance. Most people rely on what someone says, but micro behaviors expose the gaps between the words and the internal state. A person who claims confidence but compresses their lips is signaling hesitation or resistance. Someone who says they agree but suddenly increases their blinking is showing stress. A slight shoulder shrug might reveal doubt they didn't voice. These reactions happen in milliseconds, and the person showing them isn't aware enough to control them. That makes them far more reliable than speech. The key is to observe without staring or analyzing too visibly. Keep your expression calm and neutral while you watch for patterns. Notice what their baseline looks like, how they breathe when they're relaxed, how they sit when they feel safe, how their voice sounds when they're comfortable. Once you know their baseline, any deviation becomes meaningful. A sudden inhale before answering, a foot turning toward the exit, fingers touching the neck or face. Each micro-behavior is a clue about their state of mind. You don't react to each one, but you store them as pieces of a puzzle that builds the real picture. When you understand micro-behaviors, you can redirect conversations with precision. If you see a sign of resistance, you slow the pace. If you see openness, you push forward. If you detect anxiety, you apply calmness to stabilize the interaction. You are no longer guessing, you're guiding. The other person feels understood without knowing why, and you gain control because you're operating with more information than they think they're giving. Controlling the pace means taking charge of the rhythm of the interaction, so the other person unconsciously follows your tempo instead of dictating their own. Human communication is built on patterns. People expect conversations to follow a certain speed, a certain back and forth, a certain emotional momentum. When you decide the pace, when to slow things down, when to pause, when to accelerate, when to interrupt rhythm, you take control of the emotional environment. The person across from you begins adapting to your timing, and that adaptation gives you leverage. When someone is overly confident, pushy, or trying to dominate, slowing the pace weakens their momentum. Confidence relies on rhythm. Disrupt that rhythm and their certainty wavers. Speaking slowly, pausing longer than expected, or even breathing more deliberately forces them to recalibrate their entire approach. They may start repeating themselves, over-explaining, or losing track of their message because you've disrupted the tempo they were relying on. A slow pace also signals composure and authority, making them feel as though they're being evaluated rather than engaged on equal ground. Speeding up has the opposite effect. When someone is lying or hiding something, increasing the pace destabilizes them. Ask quick follow-up questions, remove the recovery time, shift topics abruptly, and watch their processing struggle. A liar needs space to build their story. Taking away that space exposes cracks. Their body language becomes more inconsistent, their tone shifts, and their micro-behaviors spike. By controlling speed, you control clarity. Breaking rhythm is useful when someone thinks they have the upper hand. If they're trying to manipulate the emotional direction, a sudden change, like interrupting with a calm question, shifting tone unexpectedly, or pausing right when they expect intensity, forces them out of their planned script. Their mind has to reset, and in that reset, you gain control. Re-establishing rhythm on your terms then places you in the dominant position. When you consciously manipulate pace, you're not reacting, you're leading. The other person doesn't realize they've started matching your breathing, your pauses, your tempo, and your emotional cadence. And once they follow your pace, they start following your direction. Offering certainty is one of the strongest psychological influences because people are naturally drawn to whoever appears the most sure of themselves. Humans crave stability, direction, and clarity, especially in moments where they feel uncertain or overwhelmed. When you project certainty, steady tone, grounded posture, confident delivery, you become the emotional anchor others instinctively rely on. This doesn't mean you have to be right, it means you communicate as though you trust your own judgment. That trust becomes contagious, and people start adopting your perspective without questioning it. Certainty works because the human brain is designed to follow signals of leadership. When someone senses you believe fully in what you're saying, they stop evaluating your words and start responding to your conviction. Doubt is exhausting, and most people unconsciously outsource decision-making to the person who appears the most confident. When you remove hesitation from your voice and behavior, you relieve the other person of mental load. They gravitate to your certainty for psychological ease. You offer certainty not by being aggressive or loud, but by being consistent. Your tone stays calm even when the conversation gets tense. Your facial expressions remain composed instead of reactive. Your body doesn't fidget or collapse under pressure. You speak in complete thoughts, without unnecessary qualifiers or nervous filler words. You hold eye contact just long enough to show stability, but not dominance. All these cues form a message. You are sure, grounded, and not easily moved. When someone argues or challenges you, certainty allows you to maintain control without confrontation. Instead of escalating, you respond as though their challenge is just another detail to process, not a threat. This tells their nervous system that you're the stable point in the interaction, and the stable point always becomes the authority. Over time, people begin shaping their behavior around your reactions. They trust your direction because your consistency gives them psychological safety.